Yo, is that Bruce Pillbug?
Yo, is that a new setup, bro? Do you have a new setup?
Bro, it's the Bruce Pillbug setup.
That
I,
is
I
a Bruce
designed it
Willis.
for like if a Pillbug came in, he would
Mm-hmm.
like feel the layout is like a familiar Pillbug layout. You know what I mean?
Yeah, did you put the bed there to confuse your cats so they would stop harassing you at night?
No, that's the funny thing is I was like, maybe if I sleep out here, they'll be chill. But then they
Hmm.
were just breakdancing on my head all night. So, yeah, it
Yeah,
was crazy.
yeah, it sounds familiar. Dude, literally the entire time I was staying over there, I don't think I slept 2 hours because like they kept like,
I felt so bad the one night because I remember waking up because I was
oh
sleeping
my God.
perfectly, but I woke up and I look over and they're both just like dancing on your head, and you just let
It
out
was
this sigh that was just like that you had just given up any hope of sleeping that
it
night,
was
dude. And I
it
was
was
like,
literally just like they were Mortal Kombating like on my head
they're
all night long.
crazy, bro. They're
They're
crazy.
insane. They're
Dude, the blue
insane.
one has started doing this thing when he is like really overstimulated. If I make
Hmm.
eye contact with him anywhere in the house, dude, I lock eyes with him, he will sprint as fast as possible, jump off anything that's possible, and then will fly at my chest with both claws out
Oh my
like this, dude. And
God.
I literally sometimes have to be like, "Whoa, bro! Like, relax, relax." Like, dude, when I'm
Dude.
telling you, there are times I've walked into the room and just based on like senses turned just in time to see a 10-pound furry ball rocketing towards my head, dude, like a cannonball. It's
That's so
crazy.
good, dude. Well,
They're
it's a whole
wild.
thing. It's a whole thing with cats anyway that like mm, they have that wildcat instinct that when you turn your back, they'll start like creeping up on
Creeping
you.
in.
You ever seen that?
Yeah, yeah.
It's so funny. Um,
Dude, I had a
dude,
oh, sorry.
uh, no, it's like I don't want it to be the Beetle episode, but I feel like I have so much to debrief on because I just worked this Miami
I
Art
know I
Fair
haven't
shit.
seen you in like 3 months. The
I know.
patrons
I'm
have been
really
asking
honestly happy to
about
be
you.
back. Yeah, I know.
You gotta play
It's been a long
Fortnite with
time.
us.
Dude, oh, I know. Well, I just don't want to download a like 60 gig game that I'm gonna
I
suck
think
at
you
anyway.
I think you downloaded it.
I didn't. I paused. I stopped the download because somebody was like, "Oh, you know it's 60 gigabytes, right?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I don't need that." Like, and we were already about to play Fall Guys, but I will download it. It would be really fun to play together. Um. Oh yeah, but as you guys know, or maybe you don't know, I was working at the Miami Art Fair. Not for my own art, but because my buddy, close friend of mine who I've known for a long time, he works for a gallery as like an exhibit coordinator or an event coordinator or
I'm
something.
listening, but I have to respond to this text. Please
That's
keep
okay.
going.
That's okay. This is half to you and half to the patrons. So anyway, uh he asked me because they're based out in New York. He asked me if I wanted to work out for a week with him for the gallery at there was two different fairs that were going on for this Miami like art. There's like Art Basel, but Art Basel is like one fair and then there's like a bunch of other ones. Anyway, the Miami art scene is not a good one in my opinion. I just think it's mostly garbage and like uh I especially feel like it's hard.
When you say garbage, do you mean the quality of art or the area
It's
or
the content. It's more the like I
it's
think
like
this is
Rick and Morty smoking weed?
yeah, I really
Okay,
think
yeah.
this is a Miami specific thing, but people who live in Florida who listen to the podcast will know what I'm talking about. All of these fairs should put a full-on embargo. Like they should just say absolutely not to any artists that are trying to come in with Monopoly Man art, Bitcoin art, Marilyn Monroe. What
Now,
else do I
dude,
see a fuck
that
ton
is
of?
one. Is that a common one? Because that's one like I feel like I would love to see. I have never seen weed or
Dude,
drug paraphernalia with the Monopoly Man. Is that
dude,
is that a common one?
it is ubiquitous in fucking Miami. Like anywhere you go, and it's just in this area. It's just in Wynwood, which is like, don't let anyone tell you that Wynwood is up and coming. Some people are saying that they're like, oh, it's this cool young area. No, it's not. Wynwood is such a dog trash area. It's like, I mean, I don't even use this word, but it's like ratchet. It's just like everybody goes there to get shit faced, and the only other people that are there are like confused like Argentinian tourists with too much money to spend and are just like, oh, let's go to Wynwood, but have no idea what's going on over there.
Yeah.
And it used to be known for its street art. It's still known for that. But the street art there, I'm telling you, man, there is not a single good fucking piece of street art in that. Like, it is all so bad. Like, it's just terrible because it's all that type of shit. It's just like really like I like money. I'm going to paint the Monopoly Man because I like money. And it's like, dude, fuck off. Like, just
It's
paint
weird though, because like
anything else. Anything else.
I agree with you, but I lived with in LA my two roommates, Zach and Zach. Anytime we went to a weed festival, obviously they'd have a ton of that. Shit. That's the place it should be at, a weed festival, that
Uh-huh.
type of art. But they would like, dude, do you see that? Yo, you should make it like this. Like, yo, it's Rick drinking lean. And it's
Yeah, I
like
know. But that
there
it's
is
just
the
like
first time you see it, I think, because you think it's such like a novelty and rarity, and then it's you start seeing it everywhere, and it's like,
but
dude,
that's the thing, is like and I was telling my friend that I'm like, how are we in the year of our Lord 2023 still making this shit? Because it's like, okay, probably the first guy in like 2008 who drew the Monopoly Man smoking weed probably stood up. It was like, you know, that Oppenheimer like I'm sure that was the
no, dude,
very
dude, it's
first
like,
thing. Yeah,
honey,
it's
honey,
just
come
like yeah,
quick. Yeah, he's calling
like
to his
literally
wife, like,
like
yeah.
he knows these changed the world forever, but like it's like, dude, this has been going on for like, I don't know, 15, 20 years. Like, how are we still doing this? And
Bro, it's
there's
gonna
really no
keep evolve,
excuse.
bro. Your goal, because this is one of my goals. Our goal as a team should be to make characters that start other artists start
That
drawing smoking weed and
drawing,
drinking lean, dude. That's what
that's
we need.
hilarious. That is a really funny thing to work up to. But even because I was working two art fairs. There was one that was called Red Dot Miami. No relation. Yeah,
Oh,
no
oh.
relation. But which actually I don't even know if the Red Dot, if this is why she's named her. I don't think this is
You should
why.
let her know just in case, because that this could be huge for her
It could
career
be
if
huge.
there's a red dot.
She should sue. I honestly am gonna. I will
Dude, fuck
literally be a
suing. I would just
witness.
show up and pretend I own the place. I'd be like, yo,
Straight
welcome
up.
to
I
the
mean,
red
honestly,
dot.
this fair fucking sucked. I mean, it was like it was just in a warehouse, but it was so trashy, and they were like charging people. They were charging crazy amounts to park there. The whole thing was just top to bottom such trash. The actual, like, my buddy and his boss and the coworkers that I was working in the little gallery were cool generally. Most of them were cool. I worked with this one guy who's a fucking nut, but everybody else was cool. And but the fair itself just sucked. It was like really trashy. And then but then the other one, which I worked at one day because it was 5 days total. I had 4 days at that Red Dot fair. Oh, which, by the way, the reason it was called Red Dot, which I learned, is that it's like common, I guess, in a gallery that went after something is bought or sold,
Oh, they
they
put a
have
red
these
dot
little
on it.
red dot stickers. That's why. So that's why it was called that. And then the other one, which was called Aqua, was actually really fresh. It was like definitely a higher brow. That one was in Miami Beach. It was a lot older crowd, but like they had literally this motel, which I think is like a two-star motel in Miami, that every year for the week clears out all of the furniture in the room, and they just let the galleries set up in each room. And like it looks like an old Miami motel, and when you're like
That's
walking
kind of
around,
fresh.
there's like the balcony has like trees in the middle and like a little median, and like all the windows were open, so it felt very like it was cool. That was really fresh, and the art there was actually some good art.
Bro,
But
can you imagine a bunch of Indian guys showing up to the red dot like, this is not what I was expecting. This is
yeah,
not
that's
what I was expecting. I
not
will
what I
take
had in
though the
mind
Rick
at
and
all.
Morty drinking lean. I will take that.
Yeah,
I
yes,
will
I'll
take
take
that.
two of those.
The other joke I
But
was gonna go with, see, I was going between them, but the other one would be you're at the Red Dot Gallery and there's an Indian man standing there, and someone comes and picks him up like a painting and walks away.
yeah, that's good too. That's
That's good too. That's
kind
good
of
too.
cute. Yeah, that's like almost like it like surpasses racism into like cute territory, where it's like
It
that's also
yes, yeah.
almost kind of endearing. Anyway, even at this, I was walking around at the Aqua Fair, because that one we were stationed in our little thing, and it was really chill. And dude, we were sipping like Aperol spritzers. Like, it was awesome. That day ruled. But then But then I decided, I was like, oh, let me walk around the fair. And a lot of the art was really fresh. But at the end, they had like the biggest booth was one that was like one room that looped around so you could get to the other side of the balcony, like you could walk through it. And I went into there and they had set up all this like pink carpet and lights while you were walking through. Bro, I should have fucking taken pictures of the art. The art in there, it was literally like just the Mona Lisa, but with her like tits out. And then there was like another one that was like Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street. What's his name? Jordan Belmont or Belfort or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. And he's just holding up like, you know, oh no, it was Great Gatsby. You know that Great Gatsby thing
Yeah,
where
the
he's holding up,
glass. Yeah.
but instead of the glass, he's holding up a Bitcoin. I swear to God, this big like 10-foot, not even a painting. It just was like a big ass like Photoshop thing that they printed on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
and I walked through there and I was like, the fair should have banned that. They should have said absolutely not, because when I was walking through there, I was like, oh, this is like trash. Like this is a trash fair. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing like
Dude,
it's crazy. It's
mentioning
crazy.
the Mona Lisa one got me thinking. It's like if you're a weed dude and you're like a creative guy, like you, this is your path. You make that type of art. There is a distinct female art because I have met multiple women like this. I'm
Mm,
curious what your take is, but women's version of this.
mm.
Were you? I think she grew up near you because she was friends with Teddy, but she was our age. Do you know someone called Gabby?
Yeah, what's her last name?
I don't know, but she's
Gabby?
a smoke show. You
I
know who I
don't
was talking
know.
about,
Likelihood that we have mutual friends is very high, but
probably.
doesn't ring a bell. Yeah.
She was one of those chicks, and like I said, there's a ton of them, but she's the most recent one I've met like this who will do like, yeah, like a painting of like a woman squeezing her boobs, or the word pills spelled out entirely with
Oh, you
pills,
told me
and then
about
selling
this.
it for like 500. No one would buy it,
Yes.
but trying to sell that as like a high art
Yes.
piece. Sorry.
Well, that was the other thing. It was actually a very eye-opening experience because I've never worked in a gallery. I've never done anything with fine art before. And my friend, he's been working in galleries for a long time. And so like being able to do this was a very eye-opening experience because a lot of the artists, their particular gallery, the artists that they represent, it's a mix. They have a handful that are based just on merit alone, like they have like an ongoing relationship with them and they split commission 50-50 with the artist or whatever. The other ones, which were the ones that were at this Red Dot like Winwood fair, were paying the gallery to have their art hanging up in the
Even if
thing,
they didn't
and
sell it.
even if they didn't sell it.
Oh
And
wow.
but part of it, which to me I was kind of like, I mean, on one hand, you could think of it and be like, well, it's a little predatory, but it's really not, because it's like they don't have to do that. And the other people who were at this fair, a lot of them were standing there representing their own art in the booth, which might sound fun, but it actually sucks because like selling your own art, especially something that's at like a really high price point, is kind of like it just sucks. And it's like it I think by having somebody else standing there and just being like, "Oh, we represent this artist," it adds like a mystique to the
It
artist,
does
and
add some allure.
it adds some allure, and it makes it feel like, "Oh, I'll pay for this," rather than. I mean, it's like I would even say like I hate when I'm telling somebody that I'm a comic artist and they're like, "Oh, show me some of your work." I'm like, dude, the
Bro, you
last
hate
thing
that? Imagine how I feel.
Dude, it's like, but the last thing I want to do is be like showing somebody and being like scrolling through and being like, what about this? You think this one's funny? It's like, I'm like, no, here's my
But you
handle.
have some
Go look it
you
up
have
on your
some
own
good
time.
classics that I feel like you could show anyone and be proud of.
But it's literally like, oh, you're a stand-up comedian? Tell me a
Dude,
joke.
yeah,
Like
it's the
it's like
dance
that's
monkey thing. It's the
so
dance
fucking
monkey thing.
annoying. And it's just and it's like
But on
it's
the
the
other
same
side, it's like
thing.
if you are a stand-up comedian, tell me a fucking joke and make me laugh, you fucking hack. What the like I do
Yeah.
get that, but it's different than like because I think comedians get up their own ass, but that is very different and less offensive than like seeing a guy and finding out he's a doctor and being like, "Can you check out this rash on my anus and at this
Yes.
party for free?" You know what I mean? Like that's
Well,
like
because
they're
it's
very different
subjective.
still.
It's yeah,
Like
it's because art and comedy is very subjective. Like there are very few, if any, artists or comedians or musicians that are it's universally agreed that like this is the best to do it. You know what I
Well,
mean?
us
So
cold cuts.
yeah, except for cold cuts. I mean, when it comes to like podcasts, web comics, that's pretty much cream of the crop. But like because it's like I see a lot of these artists, especially because they're starting out, they don't have representation or an agent or whatever. They're standing there in front of their own art and it has like a $10,000 price tag on it. And I really don't think many of them sold. Like even at our gallery, just because the fair was attracting a crowd that was not collectors, you know what I mean? It was just like tourists walking through. We only sold like a couple pieces at the red dot. At the more highbrow one, the one that was at the motel, we actually sold a ton of pieces, but that was it was like a different crowd and none of the artists were there. And I'll tell you what, there were a couple artists who came by anyway to come see their work at the Winwood one just to like hang
Like an
around.
arsonist coming back to see the fire.
Exactly. And it was a little bit, well, it was a little bit annoying because it's like they kept coming up and being like, well, any bites? Any bites? And it's like Evan explained to me, my buddy who got me this job, explained to me that he was like, he has this theory where it's basically like if an artist is hanging around, it means their art's not going to sell. But there's a correlation there because it's a confidence thing that
Yeah.
like the artists who just give them here's the money, here's my art, let me know what happens at the end of the fair. You know what I mean? That art sells. And then because they're not hanging around because they're just like, I believe that my art will sell and I don't have to worry about it. But the artists that are hanging around, it's like, a watch pot doesn't boil exactly. And there were some interesting characters like dude, it was wild. I mean, the other part about just being surrounded not by the artists in our booth, but just other artists that were kind of there to like network, at the fair and were coming around. It's like I mean, not that I forget, but it's interesting to see people IRL who are artists and how egotistical and narcissistic the average
Insane. I
artist
suffer from
is.
this sometimes, but
I
it's
mean, I think
insane.
everyone does. Yeah. And that, I don't even mean to say that it was a negative experience or that I didn't meet any really cool or interesting people because I did. But it is a little bit insane that the way that people talk about themselves, it's like, it's a little crazy. Where I
Well,
really
what's
don't even say, like, when people
do
ask me
you
what I
agree with this
do,
though? Before you continue, the people
yeah.
who talk about it the most and are like crazy like that seem to be at the always at the lower end.
Yeah,
Like,
because you're selling yourself, you know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah,
I'm not even trying to gas mask to my own farts here, guys. But like when somebody asks me what I do, I'm like, oh, I'm a comic artist, which I also found at this fair that with a lot of these other artists, after they were done talking about themselves, they'd be like, oh, and are you an artist? Asking me because my art wasn't there. I was just working for the gallery. And I'd be like, oh yeah, actually I am. I do it full time. And they're like, oh really? What kind of art do you do? And I'm like, I'm a comic artist. And they were across the board. Everyone would just be like, oh, well, like completely stopped giving a shit after I told
yeah,
them
like
that.
you're not some painter or
But
whatever.
right, but I don't feel the need to be like,
Which is funny
but
too, because
also,
I guarantee you your paintings would blow the fuck out of there, out of the
well, it's like
water,
it's
dude.
it's like besides the point is that I just like I didn't really go there to network. You know what I mean? Like I went
Yeah,
there
you're there for
because
that that sweet
they were
paycheck.
paying me for the week, and like and then for the artists that were interested enough, really what it really came down to was people would be like, you know, oh, like here, why don't you follow me on Instagram? Here's my at, like I'm such and such paintings at Instagram dot
And did they
fucking
seem
mother.
interested in you again once
And
they saw your
and then
follower count?
I'd follow them, be like, okay, yeah, I'll follow you right now. And I follow them and they walk away. And then the next day I would see them because they get guys, when you're a big time billionaire celebrity like me, you learn some tricks of the trade, which is that because of my follower count on Instagram, I know that people get like a priority notification if I like follow them,
Yeah,
basically. So my
they
shit
like all your
pops
shit.
up. And so then they would come back the next day and be like, I had a couple of them be like, dude, you're like famous. Like I saw your things, and I was like, I don't know about all that, but like, thank you. You know what I mean? It's just a different like people sing a different tune, Because a
Yes.
comic artist, nobody gives a shit. But if they see the numbers, they see you have a big following, and they're like, well, then it's all of a sudden it's like
Dude,
a different story.
man, we've been trying to get on the podcast, Psychic Pebbles, a fellow
Yes,
Zach. Um,
love that guy. Super funny.
he told a story I think on Sleepycast, but I guess it would happen to him a lot. Which it's pretty much the same thing you're saying, but he'd be at a bunch of parties with his friends and
Hmm.
meet people, and he said they would seem so uninterested in him, and then his friend
Hmm.
would be like, "This guy made this animation," and they would be like, "Oh wow, yeah," and he
Yeah.
was like, "Dude, he just was like saying how much he fucking that immediately would just make him fucking hate someone or
No, I
whatever,
know.
but
It's really fucking annoying. And it's
understandable."
like, I mean, I did like some of those people were still very polite to me, at the beginning. And I will say, well, look, I got to plug this one more time because for you guys at home who didn't know that I read this book, it's so fucking good. This one, Making Comics by Scott
Dude, this guy
McCloud.
owes us fucking money for how much we've been plugging this
Dude,
shit,
I
dude.
literally after I finished this, I swear to God, I wrote him an email. I found it on his website, and I was like, dude, I just read your book, and it like I think it just changed my life forever. It was so good. But anyway, he talks about it in there that he's like, he says that he's like, a lot of people don't think of it this way, but comics are kind of the oldest art form because, like, when you look at cave paintings and Egyptian hieroglyphics, those are sort of a primitive form of comics because it's visual storytelling. You know what I mean? And they're in sequential order, basically, in a lot of the times. And it's like, even though comics have been around since like prehistory, it's just a like disrespected branch of like art, and other fine
I
artists
think
don't appreciate it really.
honestly it comes down to like, and don't get me wrong, there are good web comics and I love web comics, but
Hmm.
I think web comics entering the scene, this happens in every medium. I'm not gonna have a good way to describe this because I'm not a word guy, but you'll get the vibe of what I'm saying. But it's like, painting was considered this fancy
Hmm.
thing, and drawing and fancy, and then webcomics came on the scene, and I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, anyone can do it, then I don't want to do it." It's kind of like
Hmm.
with it's happening with like YouTube stuff now, where like everyone wants to be a YouTuber, and now I think a lot of kids are like, it's kind of becoming cringe. Once
Oh
it's
yeah.
something is so accessible, even if there's still good parts of it, there's so much more shit produced that to find good stuff, it's harder. So I
Oh
think that's part of
yeah.
it. But dude, before webcomics, I think being a comic artist was considered like a really cool thing. Like
Yeah, I
in
think
the
that's
early
fair.
90s, 80s, I feel like if you told someone that, they'd be going crazy. But yeah,
Yeah, no.
it's definitely changed.
Well, in there, well, you have like even earlier than that, like I think in the 60s is when we had like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, which really elevated comics into like really powerful storytelling with bold like colors and dark, really dark darks. And then it was in the 90s when you have people like Frank Miller and who Frank Miller is the one that comes to mind. And also, what's the other guy's name that did Hellboy? What's the fucking Hellboy name? Hang on,
Isn't
hang on,
that
hang
also
on.
Frank Miller?
He wrote some of it, but comic artist. What the fuck is this guy's name? I literally Mike Mignola. These guys, Mike Mignola, dude. You know who I'm talking about? Have you seen this
I don't
art,
know him. Should I look him up?
bro? Just Google Mike Mignola. This dude is a like. Honestly, when I look at this art, I'm like, if you want to know big time guys, and I can't even say I'm super familiar with his
Oh,
work.
this guy looks very asexual, but his drawings are
Eh,
amazing.
It's always the best, but it's like if I wanted my art to look a certain way, like if I was feeling like I reached my artistic peak, it would look something like this, honestly. Like this is like the type of shit that I wish to be able to create someday. He is just so fucking good. But Frank Miller is right up there too. They're both insane. Just like really cool chiaroscuro, like dark darks, heavy shadows, amazing line work. Anyway, so and then that was during the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, even into the 2000s when they were really developing this like new type of like graphic novel. And I mean some of these works, a lot of these works are like just as valid, if not more valid, you know, as like high art forms as like fine art paintings. You know what I mean? Like they're like it's like incredible visual storytelling. And yeah, it's just unfortunate that, and you know what? And I would
How
even say
much of that
this.
though? Because I used to think like, and you might know a little bit more about the process than me, but how much of that is one man wrecking crew and how
Hmm.
much of it is having a team behind you? Because I do know with most comics, even if someone draws it, you're generally paying someone to color and shadow, right?
Yeah, at that level you definitely are. I mean, a lot of these guys came up doing it themselves, but once you actually are working for like DC Comics or whatever, you know what I mean, or Dark Horse, or they're gonna it's usually you usually have a writer, a penciler, which is what a lot of these guys are famous for, is for drawing the pencil work, an ink person, and a letter person. So you have somebody doing like at least four people running it, which is also in part because they have to meet deadlines. You know what I mean? You can't really expect one person to do all of it. And I will say I don't think there's anything I don't frown upon collaborative work at all because I think collaboration is a beautiful thing. Just like a movie isn't one, you're not one person making a movie. You've got a bunch of hands on deck, and when everybody is working, when you're firing on all eight cylinders, it turns into like an amazing work of art. So it is with comics, but um, but to be fair, you and I, for example, are each basically one man wrecking crews when it comes to well, maybe wrecking crews is putting it a little bit heavy, but we are one man. And when it comes to our comics, you know what I mean? Like there's nobody else writing or inking or doing any of that stuff. And I wanted to add something to what you said earlier, because you were like, anyone can do web comics, which is true, anyone can, but especially after what I
You
saw at this
ratatouilleing me?
yeah, anyone can make web comics,
Anyone
but
can
like,
cook, but not
uh,
everyone can cook well.
yeah, exactly.
Oui.
The
Dude,
I
that
would
is the
actually
funniest meme.
say,
That big
well,
fat fuck guy on 4chan, the chef, and it
gets
just says,
criticized
"Those
once,
ones die."
fucking dies. I love that. It's so real though. They
Dude,
really
everyone
killed
makes
him.
fun of him though, but everyone I know, the first time they get in a
So
scuffle
funny.
on Twitter, they're immediately like,
Gets
like
criticized once,
crazy.
fucking dies. But what I would say is that I honestly believe there is even though there are maybe more web comics are a more accessible and cheap thing for artists, and you could say there are more people even trying to do it. Uh, I think it's easier to make money as a fine artist if you are marketing yourself properly, like as a painter, because I don't think that many web comic artists are making any money at all. And there are a ton of hack painters with proper representation who are making an inordinate sum of money. I mean, not everyone. I'm sure it's still very difficult, but like, because, everything's difficult. The amount of time that I hear people being like, being an artist is hard. It's like, dude, being a plumber is hard.
Chinchillas
Like
are,
everything is
yeah.
fucking hard. It's just a hard world. But like, but I do think that web comics, I think people overestimate how easy it is to turn it into a sustainable business, which is why some of these guys like Cyanide and Happiness are kind of like for me personally, are like a beacon to look towards because these guys have been doing it for so long with, big financial returns. And especially they started in a time when it was not there were being a full-time web comic artist was not a thing before Cyanide and Happiness, I think. Is that fair to say?
I agree with you, but boys, if you're listening, the Cyanide Happiness boys, I will say a criticism is, are you vaping? Based vape. What flavor, baby?
It's honestly a shitty flavor. I went into this little rinky dink ass place. It's just called Straz, which I guess is
Oh,
strawberry
Elf Bar?
raspberry. It's an elf bar, yeah.
Dude, mine came with this drippy
What is
goo
it?
thing on top of it.
Oh, it's like coom.
Yeah, it's gross.
Say Paxson?
Uh, Pax Pod. Pax Pod.
Okay,
But
okay.
dude, the one negative though is like, yeah, I think because like, dude, the one guy posts pictures of his house and he has like 20 arcade machines. Like, yeah, they're doing good financially, and it's like I shouldn't even be talking because I'm nowhere near that level. But I do think there is an important requirement not to want to just succeed monetarily, but to also be able to evolve. You know what I mean? Like they
Hmm.
are legacy wise, they're like the Kobe Bryant. No, because they're not. Well, not in like the dying way, but like they're like Kobe Bryant level in terms of legacy.
Yeah.
But you don't see them popping off that much now. You know what I mean? Like I think they didn't focus on evolving. Does that make
Well,
sense? Tell
I
me if I'm wrong.
no no I understand your argument, but I'm gonna give you a let's debate. Here's what I think. I think that I think their form of evolution was actually pretty clever because I just learned this from talking to Chris Wilson that that first of all they've always been independent. They never signed, they never wanted to get
Which is
syndicated, they
based.
never want, which is
Which is
crazy.
based. Yeah.
Insane considering that you can buy Cyan and Happiness tabletop games in major retailers like Target and Barnes and Noble. You can go in there probably to your local one right now and find a Cyanide and Happiness like card game. You know what I mean? That is kind of insane for an independent artist to achieve that type of reach. And they did for a while have an animated show and they still own their own animation studio. They're just like, I think that evolution, as you put it, means something different to a lot of different artists. And I do think that they evolved without ever losing,
Compromising.
without ever compromising, but also without ever losing respect for web comics as an art form. Like, what I mean to say is that even now, I know you and I, for example, are getting a little fidgety with web comics where it feels like we've been doing this for some time. It feels, now I have however me personally, like let's say I don't know how many comics I have behind me now, like 500 web comics that I've probably drawn over the last like year and a half or so. Like I love them. I'm proud of the work that I've put in. I'm really happy about my audience and the following that it's gained me, but I feel like I have ants in the pants because I want to make a long piece. You know what I mean? Like now I have my sights set on something. That to me is what I feel would be an evolution for myself as an artist because
That's what you want.
I love
You know what?
storytelling.
I see what you're saying, and I do this a lot. I think I'm just projecting my desires
But I
onto
get
them.
that. I do
Yeah.
get that because you can look at Cyanide and Happiness and be like, well, in some ways they're kind of still doing the same things that they
But
did
they
at the
want
jump.
to be webcomic artists.
But
Where
exactly, I
you
think
we see it more as like a step.
well, web comics, and I mean like that's the thing that I think a lot of uh like for example the like one of the guys who I met who was one of the artists at this fair does this digital art, and he after he followed me on social media he came back the next day and he was like, bro, how did you get to 100,000 followers on Instagram? That's crazy. And I was like, it is crazy. And I was like, honestly, I'm not sure how it happened, but what I will say is that I was painting for a long time and doing little drawings, but web comics are really shareable. They're really easy to send to your friends. You know what I mean? Like more so than a painting is. You might find a painting that you really like. And you might follow that artist and be like, whoa, this guy's work is really gnarly. Like I love this work. But it's just not as shareable. It's just the
Right.
medium. It doesn't mean that it's any lesser of an art form. I love painting. I love looking at art that I love that other people have done, but web comics are built for social media. You know what I mean? It's like I think way easier to gain a following for web comics because they're funny or they're relevant or they're, you know what I mean? Like something like that. And it's just not like that for paintings. It's just not the same. People don't seek it out or share it that way. A lot of people are sharing my and your comics not in the way that's like, bro, check out the guy who made this. He's super talented. They're just saying, check out this comic. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
check out this comic of this guy the doctor telling a woman her pussy is mid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then they send it to, they may not be thinking like, bro, this guy Yolo Swag Studios is so funny. So a
Right,
lot of
right,
people
right.
are, but a lot of them are sharing it because they just think it's a shareable, funny
Thing,
piece of
yes. Yeah.
material. You know what I mean? It's just different. And there's like pitfalls and benefits to each art form, but the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can kind of like start to taper your output. I
Expectation. Yeah.
think. Yeah. Oh, fuck. Oh my God. Can you hear
What?
that?
No, what is it? Is there something in your wall? There's something in my wall.
Dude, there is, I think a plane just flew overhead or something, but it literally just sounded like someone dropped a nuclear bomb. Like it just was so fucking loud going over my house.
That is spooky. Bro, I tell you my movie idea.
Uh, what was the movie idea?
So it's like the world is taken over by these robot Jews, right? They're
Okay.
Jewish robots.
That's already happened, did you know?
I know. Well, dude, see, this is where
I'm on the inside, so I can tell you
it gets
it
scarily
has
real
happened
world, bro.
already.
These Jewish robots take over our institutions, banks, Hollywood. They're
Okay.
producing all this robot Jewish stuff, but then I'm thinking like a Mel Gibson type hero,
Uh-huh.
kind of buff guy, like he's fighting them and shit, and then some woman will obviously team up with him, and he'll not like her, but they'll fall in love. But I'm thinking the climax is like, how in movies it's like you have to ask a robot an impossible question and it like
Yeah.
short circuits. It's like
Yeah.
he finally like reaches the head robot and he's like, "Yo, free Palestine." And then the robot will be like, This free good, but Palestine bad, but free, but Palestine, but,"
Hey, that's
and
actually
then just
good.
blow up. Yeah, and
Wait,
there's something there, I think.
dude, I feel like that's actually a funny YOLO swag comic. I mean, you could get that whole like, dude, it's like you would just get chewed out for like anti-Semitism
Would you protect
probably.
me? Dude, I
It'd be a
can't wait,
hard,
bro.
it'd
If
be a
if we
hard
ever
sell.
if we ever got to the level where we were being interviewed and I was accused of anti-Semitism, I would totally do the like, "Yo, my best friend is Jewish." Blah blah blah. I would
Dude,
like make you do that and we
I
do.
would I'm almost prepared that if like somebody was like like tweeted at me and was like, "Are you aware that your partner is anti-Semitic?" I would be like, "Yes."
Dude, I'm
Yes, I
shocked you
am.
still haven't fucking gotten a
I just think
message telling
I
not
just
to hang
think
out with
the
me.
the people who are just aware that you and I are like a duo already are at a certain level of like awareness. You know what I mean? That I think they're
Yeah.
just not gonna do it. It would have to be. It would be such a weird concoction of like very perfunctory knowledge of like not knowing who you are, not knowing who I am, but hap, happen to know happening to know that you and I are a duo. Like I don't know who that I don't think there is
It'd be
anybody
a
that
weird
falls into that.
demographic.
It'd be a
It would
very
be a
weird
weird
demographic. I think the only
demographic.
people that know about cold cuts are basically with the shits. You know what I mean? Um, oh, there was something else I was going to tell you. What was it? Uh,
My movie idea was just so good.
oh, I know the movie idea totally knocked me off my game, but anyway, yeah, I think in general this whole like art fair thing was well, it was a good experience for me because I got to get out of the house and actually talk to new people for the first time in a very long time. I actually had been feeling for a few months that I was like, am I starting to go a little like doughy in the brain because I'm like only talking to you and Angie and my brother and the Discord and like nobody else and just basically being inside. But no, I don't really think that was the case. I still felt like I was, but it was good to sharpen the saw and meet some other people. But it did also give me a lot of like clarity, a lot more clarity about where I stand in the art world as well. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like not that I'm the main character or anything, but just as like an individual, like I'm a full-time artist and so are all of these people, but in a lot of ways I really found that I had very little in common with a lot of the other. creatively. You know what I mean?
They were
Like
subhuman, you were saying.
no, it's like they were actually, I met a lot of nice people and cool people, but I was a little bit surprised at how difficult it was to talk about art
Yeah.
with them because our mediums are so different.
So different. Yeah.
It's a little like that was a little eye-opening. But I've had so many good conversations online with people like you and Chris and House and like Flork of Cows and like you know what I mean? These guys like people that I've messaged or just talked about in general that yeah, comics are really interesting. That changed my whole life. Comics
That's a
came into my
powerful
life and it
statement.
changed my whole
It
shit
changed
up.
your
Yeah.
whole. Well, dude,
It
you
really did.
I think this is probably a YouTube episode, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, well, we could upload it. Do you think we can get it uploaded by tomorrow?
I think so.
Yeah.
But before we close, because I think only the patrons know about this, but I heard you also didn't have a good experience at this art show.
Yeah, I was debating whether or not to talk about
Oh,
this
we
because
don't have to. We
honestly,
don't have
we
to.
can. I mean, I want to fill you in. It's an interesting story, I guess.
Just
But
post their address and their phone number, and we'll.
look, I'll tell you guys. If you guys have listened this far and you want to just hear what the fuck happened to me at this art fair, I'll tell you. I'll tell you the story. So this was on the first full day of the. I've already told this whole story basically verbatim to Zach, so you just pretend to be surprised as I'm telling it to you now. But on the very first day of the art fair, which was on Wednesday,
No
uh,
way.
yeah, I know. Just wait. So yeah, I drove myself over there, and I had my boss for the week, basically my friend's boss, who's the director of this gallery, who was super cool. She gave me this little like decal. I don't know what you'd call it. It hangs in the rear view mirror in my windshield.
That's nuts.
That dude, just wait. That
I got one
that
more of those in me.
it's like actually I have to just quick like just because it made me think of this. It is so funny also how common of a problem it is with people that especially like I met a bunch of people and I know I feel like I'm talking so much shit about the people that I met during this time, but a lot of them were super nice, even the people I'm about to talk about. But it's crazy how many people do not have a sense of okay, I'm telling a story and this guy just said that's crazy 3 times in a row. Like it's time for me to land the plane. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like it's so funny. Like I feel like I'm hypersensitive to like if I'm telling a story and I see somebody's eyes dart away for like 2 seconds, I'm like, they don't give a fuck. Let me just
I
finish the story
crashed the
up.
plane as
I'm
soon as I
immediately
noticed
just like,
that. I
I'm
go
immediately
straight
like, and then
down.
everyone died, and that's the end of the story. You know what I mean? Like, I hate that feeling. I'm like, it gives me the ick, and but it's
Were you
just so
witnessing
funny.
this, or were you hitting them with "That's crazy"?
I feel like I, on many occasions, was talking to people who would not land the plane, and I
Yeah,
would just
yeah,
be
yeah,
like, "That's crazy," you know,
yeah,
that's
yeah. You're
crazy.
just totally
That's
hostage.
crazy. Like just like shut up already. So anyway, so uh where the fuck was I? Anyway, long and short of it, there was a little dirt lot outside of the venue that I worked at that I was instructed to park in because I was an employee of the festival. And I had the decal in my window to indicate that I was an employee. In the morning at 11 a.m., I pulled in there and a security guard just waved me in and did this so I knew where to park. Parked in there, didn't say 2 words to me, walked out of the lot, and I went into the fair. Really long hours. I was there until like 9 p.m. My girlfriend came to visit me during like the last hour, and then we left the fair after it closed. Left the fair, walked around the block back to this dirt lot, and my car was gone. And I was like, no fucking way. I've actually never had my car towed before this, but Miami, and in particular this neighborhood Wynwood, is they are notorious for towing your shit, especially when it feels unjust with like no signage. You know what I mean? They'll just tow your shit for no reason. So if you're going to visit Miami, guys, just fucking Uber. Save yourself the headache. Save yourself the fucking headache. Spend the $15 on an Uber or whatever. So
Dude, the Uber driver shows up on his feet and he's like, "My car got towed."
it's like, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. I cannot
Hop on
do
my
it. I cannot
back,
do this
bro. Yeah.
anymore. So anyway, I foolishly, naively thought that because I had this decal, I could park in this dirt lot, not, just in a parking lot. Uh, but I couldn't. My shit got towed. And obviously now I'm standing there with my GF and looking around. Somebody came up to me. So one of the other attendants of the fair, or like an employee of the fair, came up to me and was like, dude, I was here a little bit earlier, and I think your car got towed with like 9 others. Like they came in here and they just took like a bunch of cars out of here. I was like, what the fuck? But I saw on the front of the gate, they had a sign, Molina Towing Company. Molina Towing Company in Miami.
No
Okay.
way, dude.
Remember the name, guys. So I gave him a call, which I could probably tell you as well. If you're interested in looking them up, they're open 24/7 if you'd like to give them a call. And they confirmed that they had my car. Okay. And I saw on my phone that it was like a 10-minute walk from the place. So me and Angie walked like a few blocks around into this shady as fuck alleyway to the tow truck place, which was like, dude, I mean, I don't know, are you allowed to use the word ghetto anymore, or has that been like sniped? Like that's really what it was. I mean, there's no other way to put it, guys. Like it was just horrendous. And the like we I was like, bro, we walked in there. It was a little desk behind a bulletproof window with a bullet hole in the fucking glass. Okay.
At least you know it works.
At least it worked. And I can already see, because there's a scattering of like 4 or 5 employees in the place. Everybody there, no doubt, is an ex-con. All right. Everybody's got a neck tattoo or a face tattoo, or just scary fucking.
Oh yeah, a
You know what I
guy
mean?
just because he has the word rapist tattooed on his forehead is an ex-con.
Oh, so he's an ex-con.
Okay,
That's like,
this
can
is
you imagine?
anti-tattoo.
Can you imagine if in the Suicide Squad movie with the Joker, but it just said rapist instead of like damaged, and they're like, oh, I wonder what that means.
Dude, and they're like telling him, like, dude, you can't do that. And he's like, but I'm crazy.
But
I'm a crazy guy.
It's like you get one tattoo and everyone loses their minds. So anyway, so scary as fuck, guys, back there. And the only other people in the place we watched like walk in there right before us, they had just been dropped off. I guess they had called an Uber to get there. Was this very elderly, they looked like they were in their 80s, a couple that were both on walking with canes, and they're standing at the window, and they're extremely frail and old, and they're saying very honestly, more politely than I would have been, they were just saying like, we're employees of the fair, we were parked in the handicap spot, I don't think it was right for you to tow out of a handicap spot. Like that was, they were just expressing, which is 100% true. I could not believe what I was seeing.
Well, yes and no, obviously. I mean, if you're in a, because like, I mean, does that just give any, even if you're parked illegally in a handicap spot, does that just automatically give you free?
Here's
You know
my
what I,
point.
you know what I mean? I'm on their side, but it's still like,
I think there is a certain level of, well, I should finish the story, but
yeah,
basically,
sorry.
I do feel like there is a certain level of morality that I knew if I was a fucking tow truck driver, I would be looking for people who were blocking fire hydrants, parked in
You're
places that
like,
were
you would be
clearly
the
marked.
Dexter of tow truck drivers. You're looking for the bad guys.
There is a logical reason for tow companies to exist. This company went into a dirt lot, which was for the fair, where people had clear indications in their window that they were working for the fair and were preying on them because they knew they could make money out of the
But
confusion of tourists.
well, you got to finish the story, but didn't you tell me though that it wasn't the fair? In the end, it wasn't technically the fairs. They gave you the wrong info.
It wasn't the fair, but the fair is in cahoots. I mean, let me finish the story.
Okay, because I have a conspiracy I want to throw by you, but yes, finish first.
Please, dude. I'm fucking like literally.
I got a good one. I got a good
I'm
one.
like that fucking Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme with the fucking
It's
like
just Pepe Sylvia.
Anyway,
Pepe Sylvia. Dude, you know what's funny? Pepe Sylvia?
no, who's
Because
that?
you know where Philadelphia is.
Mm.
I think people have brought this up before, but I'm pretty sure Pepe Sylvia was him trying to read the word Pennsylvania. I
That's really
think. I think
funny.
that was the joke, but
That's funny. Pepe
continue.
Sylvia. So anyway, so so basically, so they're like, I really don't think you should have towed out of a handicap spot, something like that, or like, and also we're employees of the fair, basically just politely arguing that they should have been allowed to park there in general, but also, yeah, like what if these people were really old and didn't know how to use a phone and they had to walk? How the hell would they get over there? What the fuck are
Yeah.
you doing? You know what I mean? Like it's ethically, morally, they're like it's unconscionable to me. So anyway,
You can't believe a tow truck driver had this low morals, is what you're saying.
well,
A guy who
so listen.
goes and takes other people's cars
Other
for a
people's
living.
cars, yeah. So anyway, so the guy who was this just like like had those deep alligator eyes that you just know he sucks. He just was like telling these people, he just kept saying over and over again, he's like $180 or leave, like it's $180 or you can leave, basically over and over again to this kind old couple. The old man just forks over the money and they let him through the little side door to the parking lot where or to this like dirt lot where they're keeping the cars, and that was the end of it. Dude, my blood is boiling at this point. I'm already feeling like I've been unjustly towed, and now I just witnessed this old couple get harassed out of $200 by these guys. So anyway, now I go up to the window and it's the same guy, and I'm like, I don't raise my voice, but I'm just like, dude, I'm an employee of the festival. My boss explained to me that the parking was included, and I have a thing in the window in my windshield that's explaining I can park there. And he kept saying, he was like $180. You can either pay the $180 cash or you can leave. $180 or leave. I'm like, and Angie's with me still. My
Did they
girlfriend's with
take
me.
card or just cash? Because this is going to
No, it's
lead into my
cash only.
conspiracy theory.
Cash only.
This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a fucking truth. But
Oh, it's a
continue.
fact. Whatever your conspiracy theory is, it's
You're
100%
going to be
true.
blown
It's a
away, bro.
fact. So
Yeah.
listen. So I go to of course, they have this shady little fucking ATM, which I go over and I pull the money out and I give it to them. And at this point, I already know that my boss for this fair is really cool. I knew that they would likely reimburse me for the thing. So it wasn't even about the money at this point. It was just that I
Principle.
fucking
Yeah.
hated these guys. And so anyway, I give them the money and they open the side door to go to the lot. Angie and I walk through the doors, and now there's like, including the guy, now there's four guys, employees of the place that are standing in there. One of them, who's clearly the owner, who's this. He looked like Tuco from Breaking Bad, but he was like tall, like a big bald Cuban guy, basically, and was literally immediately just barked at us and was just like only one person, only one at a time, or something like that. Which I was like confused. I was like, what are you talking about? He was, because Angie and I had walked through. He was like one person at a time. And I was like, dude, we just paid. Like that's my car right there. He was like, you're trespassing. Get off my property. You're trespassing. Get off my property. And we're like literally like, whoa, what the fuck? He's like, you're trespassing. Get off my property. And I literally was just like, I was like, Angie, just wait outside. Just go over there. So Angie goes back through the door and now is waiting outside on the curb. And now it's this four of these guys, and my car is across the lot. I'm looking at it, and it's across the lot. And I've had my keys the whole time, so I just had to give them the money and I did already. And so I'm just going to my car. And as I'm walking to my car, I just said to them, I was like, "You guys tow old people's cars out of a handicap spot. Like, you know who's gonna judge you. Like, I don't even have to say
I
anything
didn't
because
say
you
this
know who's
earlier,
gonna
dude, but
judge you."
that is the most old Jewish man thing in the
But the
entire
funny
world
thing
to
is
be
that I
leaving
don't.
and be like, God's gonna
I
get
was,
you.
but dude, I said it in a way that I was just like, but the thing is that I'm not religious. I don't believe in any of that Jesus crap. But I was just like, I knew that when I said it, it would bother them. I
Right,
just
yeah.
knew it.
Now, when
And
you say Jesus crap, are you saying you don't believe in Christianity? Do you believe
no,
in
no,
God?
just
What is
kidding.
okay? I was just making
I
sure this
just am
wasn't a
not, I
slight.
am not, I'm not religious. And if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, yeah, shut the fuck up. But I knew it would bother these guys. And
Yeah,
so I
right.
said, I was just like, I was like, I don't even care. I was like, you know who's gonna judge you as I'm walking away, bro. This guy, the owner, the bald guy, fucking blew a gasket. He was screaming at me. He was like, dude, I'm laughing about it, but I swear to God at the time, okay, let me just tell you, he was screaming at me and he was like, and I'm walking away to my car, and he's like, "If you get in that car, I'm gonna fuck you up. If you get in that car, I'm gonna fuck you up. Like, get the fuck out of here. If you get in that car, I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna fuck you up." Screaming over and over again, and I'm just like walking to my car. I'm just like, I already paid this dude. I'm just trying to get out of here at this point. I hear him run up at me like this big dude. I can hear him now running at me. And so I turn around and he is in my fucking face, like an inch away from me. And the other guys have also like surrounded me and he's blocking me to my car now. And he's screaming at me and he's like, I'm gonna fuck you up. Like, get the fuck out of here. I'm gonna fuck you up over and over again. Sorry, it's gonna be a nightmare to edit all these curse words out, but I gotta tell this is how it fucking happened, man. So anyway, and dude, I literally just I had my hands up like this at my side, and I was like, bro, just let me go. Like, just let me go. Just let me go. Just let me go. And he's screaming at me, and the other dudes are standing around here, and it went on like that for a minute. Like I felt like a full 60 seconds that he was just like screaming in my fucking face. And I was like, just let me go. Just let me go.
How many other guys were there?
It was him and like three of the employees that were
Were
just
they
like,
around you
oh,
too, or they were just watching?
they were also around me. Like they
Around
were
you, okay.
this guy was in my face, but these guys were like within earshot. Like
Did
they were
anyone
right
have
here.
steel with them or no?
I mean, it's fucking Florida. I'm sure they have I'm sure somebody did. And and later, well, anyway, so eventually after the 60 seconds of just me like, bro, just let me go. Just let me get in my car. Just let me go. Just let me get in my car. He was finally like, open the gate. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. And so I got into my car and I went out to the curb and Angie, who was just standing right outside of this like lot, of course heard the whole thing. She was crying, picked her up at the curb, and we just drove out of there.
She
It
thought you were
was,
gonna pull up in the car and look like one of those cartoon accordions that had a
dude.
hand
I
that
mean, it
dropped
was.
on his
I mean,
head.
the part that we were just fucking separated was in and of itself like a
Well, especially if
very.
it's in a scummy area, for her have to sit outside is kind
It
of
was
scary.
it was the whole thing was
Yeah.
extremely scary, and like the fact that we were separated, the fact that I was alone with these four dudes who were all bigger than me. I mean, like, guys, I'm not like I couldn't beat anybody up basically, and like like I just have a big mouth, I guess. I couldn't let it go. I had to fucking say something to these guys because they were just such cockroaches. And like and so anyway, and later I was telling my brother that story and Sam was like, he's like, dude, you should really probably get a gun or something like it for something like this. But I was like, bro, if I had pulled out a gun, if I had a gun and I had pulled out a gun, I
You
would
would
be
have gotten
dead. Like I would
smoked.
have
Yeah.
gotten smoked.
Yeah,
Like
you would have
it
gotten
would have only
smoked.
made it so much worse. So like the fact that I honestly don't see another way that it could have played out, that I didn't either leave without my car, which would have been a fucking nightmare because I never would have gotten it back, or they would have fucked with my car, or or that I didn't like die, like genuinely get my ass beat or get shot. I mean, in hindsight, also,
Sorry,
if
Arlo's texting
oh, base, love that guy. In
me.
hindsight, they were never gonna put their hands on me because that would have been like an insane, you know what I mean? Like these are guys that I already know are probably dealing with the cops showing up there all the time, so they weren't gonna actually have a reason to, for me to pursue like serious legal action. So they were never gonna touch me, but it was all about trying to like it just like harass me,
Here's
like
what the
fucking
scam is,
intimidate
bro.
me.
Here's what the scam is, and I know right now, and I guarantee you
Tell
the
me.
police are aware, but because it's legal technically, I'm telling you right now. Okay, so first of all, 2 to 3 different times after you paying in cash, which is untraceable, which
Mm,
means, well, let me get to my point first. 2 or 3 different times, it sounds like they tried to make you leave post paying for
mm,
doing literally nothing.
yeah,
Try to make you leave post paying.
yeah,
You also said they were being very like rude with people and not really answering questions. Okay, so first of all, that tells me right away trying to get you to leave because that means you come back the next day with police saying, they threw me out, took my money. They say, "Who are you?" Okay,
yeah,
because you already paid cash. It's untraceable.
Yeah.
The second part of my theory, and this is the most crucial part, and you said these guys have been around for 12 years. I guarantee you one member on their team has been buying up empty lots, and I
Mm.
guarantee you they're either, you said the fair own that lot. I guarantee you one of their friends owns the lot, and I guarantee you these
Hmm.
guys leave the lots empty on purpose. I
Yep.
guarantee you they just spend 10 hours a day driving around. Someone leaves their car on their property, so they're legally
Hmm.
allowed to remove it. And I guarantee you they're just
100%.
fleecing all
Eh,
these people and trying to get
yep.
constant payments. I
Yeah,
guarantee you.
everyone's getting paid. And I found out afterwards because I ended up telling my boss that story, because first of all, I mean, I can't even sound like a tough guy about it. Like the dude, that night I didn't fucking sleep. I was so shook up about the situation. I mean, dude, it's been a long time. Like I haven't had a situation like that where someone was screaming in my face where I was like, "Oh, someone is either about to fucking you know, like fuck me up or like this is about to be like a crazy physical altercation. Like, dude, maybe there
Dude,
was like a
I've
time in New York or something like that that might have happened, but like nothing like that. Something like this has never happened to me
It's
before. And
normal, I think, to feel feral at night. This
yeah.
wasn't even a fight thing, bro, but I had one at Elon where there was this guy who kept coming into the restaurant I worked at, and he was like a 50-year-old guy, but then he was messaging me on Facebook when I was at Elon and was trying to like offer me money to jack off in front of him and shit.
Hmm.
And I remember the first time I dealt with that, I was so skeeved out that I slept with a hammer under my pillow because I,
Oh, really?
yeah, just because I was like, dude, if this guy seems like a creep, like if he fucking has been following me and tries to come in, like I'm crushing his head.
No, I know. I mean, there's like honestly, there's been a few nights now where I feel like I've kind of had trouble sleeping, not because I don't know, not because I'm like oh, I'm afraid like something's gonna happen. It's just like it's hard for me to stop replaying the whole
Let
thing.
go
Like
of
it
it,
was just
yeah.
very, it was like I think I'm also, and I kind of explained this to you on the phone, like I'm really disappointed in myself for for honestly for putting Angie in danger. I knew already at the time um that my boss was probably going to reimburse the thing for me. So I wasn't even upset about the money. It just was like so obvious that these guys were just crooks. You know what I mean? Like they were
Yeah.
literally just we were
Yeah.
getting robbed.
You were
They were do
violated, bro. You were violated.
I was totally violated without Vaseline, and it made it feel like, and I just was just like, and it was really the old people in there. It felt like something out of a movie that I was like, there. It was impossible for me not to react, and maybe part
About
of it
that.
was out of ego, and part of it was just out of um, like just a complete lack of justice. It just made me feel like what are we in the fucking 50s that you're allowed to run just a bold-faced like racket like this and just run it like you're in the mob and no one's gonna say anything and the police don't care and like that it just was top to bottom. It just was like really upsetting, but I shouldn't have run my mouth. I didn't scream or act like an ape or anything, but me trying to get the last laugh was
Yeah.
dangerous for me and for my girlfriend, and it
I
was
wouldn't dwell on it though, bro,
irresponsible.
because like you said, this is the first time you dealt with something like this. Hindsight's 2020. Yeah, you can beat yourself up about it, or you can just think like next time, and God forbid you're ever in a scenario like that again. But next time you'll know like, hey, these guys are fucking dickheads, but it would be
Hmm.
better to do something else. Not, it would be better to do some petty shit later, as opposed to endangering
Well,
yourself and
that's
Angie.
kind of, and that's also kind of what I feel like has been keeping me up is I kind
You
of
want
keep trying,
revenge,
I keep wanting revenge, which is also not healthy because it's like any anything that I do that's supposed to be like vigilante justice is honestly I am kind of this like believer in like karma where I kind of just feel like, if I just let this go, I mean, these guys like logically speaking, will get what's coming because they're going to tow the wrong person's car one day. I was not that guy. I was a fucking mark. You know what I mean? I'm not. I don't carry a gun. I'm just a small Jewish guy. They obviously fleeced me easy, but I like you're running a business like that. Like you are going to run into somebody, the wrong person someday, and like I. don't feel like I need to have something weighing on my conscience that's like a childish, like, I shouldn't even
It'd be
say what I
much
was
better
thinking
if
about
just
doing, but
magically 100 reviews for their building were
oh
written
yeah.
talking about like
I mean, if
how
you
the
guys,
guys were propositioning to like they wanted to let the guy kept asking me if he could blow me and he'd give me the car for free. You
yeah,
know
I
what I
would
mean? Like
say,
they're freaks, dude.
if you just found this story interesting, you could look up Molina towing in Miami, Florida, and you will probably find a lot of
But you're
interesting
not inside.
information
Yeah,
about
I
them.
bet there's crazy reviews. That's what. Okay, you saved it at the end. It sounded like incitement, but you
No,
saved
no,
it.
I
You
think there's a
saved
lot.
it
I
at
think
the
there's a
end.
lot of interesting information. And actually, I would just say if there's any journalists that want an interesting story,
Check
uh,
check out my conspiracy because if that's true, that could be
I
big,
mean, dude,
baby.
I would say, well, here's what I should also mention is that at the uh, at the suggestion of my girlfriend, mostly my girlfriend's mom, after that had happened, uh, we went to file a police report about just the incident that had happened. Not really for myself, but because somebody should look into these guys. Like, and we went there and we talked to a cop, and they just didn't care. Like, it just didn't. It was they basically. I mean, they weren't rude about it, but they were basically just like, oh, it all happened on private property. And we hear calls about that place all the time. We're over there basically once an hour, but they were agreed like, yeah, that place is shady, but there's nothing illegal about what happened, so there's nothing you can really do. And it just doesn't sit right with me. It just feels like a company like this doesn't really have a place in like 2023. You know what I mean? Like, with all the shit that has checks and balances and the amount of bullshit that the average person has to do just to get by, I think that this type of like predatory company, but with like low level protection, could be easily investigated. Do you know what I mean? That's
Well,
all I'll
dude, this
say.
is like it's humor. This is humor. Not what happened to you is humorous, but your take of like how can they be operating blah blah, blah. You realize that this you experienced what 99% of people feel about tow truck drive like tow truck drivers are a butt of a joke because they're scumbags. Like
Yeah, they're total
this isn't
scumbags.
a shocking discover. You know what I
No,
mean?
not at all.
Like
No, I know. It's
yeah.
just that I knew that they're scumbags, but I also never had my car towed and never had to deal with something like this firsthand. And
Right, right.
there was this also, the only thing that I didn't mention was that after all this screaming and yelling and all this shit that was going on in my face, the other guy, the guy who I had not the owner, the guy who I had originally talked to in the window, who was rude to the old couple, was standing right there and just had this like smug smile on his face of that impunity, that just like, like, this is how we run shit around here. You thought you were going to do something, but we're bigger and badder and no one can touch
But
us.
dude,
And that,
bro, the fact that I mean, you feel like you didn't handle it well, but I'm sure they probably feel like jackasses for the fact that they literally had four guys trying to egg you on into a fight and they didn't get what they wanted. Like dude,
I guess,
they clear the fact that they were saying they were going to kill you but didn't touch you. They were 100% egging you on. And again, I think this is part of you throw a punch, they kick your ass and throw you out. You're going to have to pay them another 180 to get your
it's
car.
true.
You know what I
Yeah, it's
mean?
true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean,
Did they
honestly,
have a
the whole thing
bulldog?
is what? There, I didn't see any dog on the
I
property.
miss, and you look at old 70s, 80s cartoons, and anyone who owns a junkyard or a tow truck service always had like an ugly ass pet bulldog named Bowser that was like the lot keeper. You know what I'm talking about? Have you
Yeah,
never
yeah,
heard
yeah.
some?
Actually,
Okay.
funny enough, it actually like on another night, because I didn't drive my I made an executive decision. I was not going to drive my car to the fair for the remainder of the
Yeah,
week. I was like,
probably a good move,
I'm
dude.
not
Yeah.
dealing with this bullshit. So Angie, God bless her, drove me back and forth from the fair for the rest of the duration. Didn't park or anything, obviously, just dropped me off and picked me up. But There was some also in that same area, not the same yard, but like another junkyard. There was like a junkyard dog hanging around there, and I was just like literally this area of like Miami. It's like we're like trapped in the fucking 80s. Like, what are we doing with this? Like, you have a dog as your security system, and we have this like mob of like tow truck drivers that are just like above the law. I'm
Well, bro, don't
I
knock.
feel like I feel like it's really hard to get away with shit in this day and age. You know what I mean? And
Bro,
it's like the fact that there's still shit like that.
man has been like, there's even signs in Rome that say "Beware of dog." Like, man's been using dog as a guard dog for many years, many
Yeah, it's
years.
very Lindy, right?
It I guess, yeah, that is the
It
definition
is.
of
It
Lindy.
is.
Dude, I hate that
Uh,
guy. To me, is so like, he just reminds you like if my dad had Twitter, because it's like
he does
some
tweet like
guy
that.
recognized him at a coffee shop and he forced the barista to take like 80 pictures of him with the guy who recognized him, and it's like, bro,
Oh,
take the
which
compliment of someone recognizing you and just go about your day. That's
that
so
yeah,
fucking
it's
cringe.
way too much. Which, by the way, I will say, I already told you this, and I told the Discord because it was kind of crazy. I got recognized IRL for the first time at
Did
this
you
fair.
force him to take a picture with you and
No, we did
post it
not
on
take any
Twitter?
photos or anything. I did happen to have a couple Beetle Moses stickers in my pocket because I was like, just in case I run into somebody, I would have something to give them. But
Dude, people like
I,
receiving thigh warmed stickers.
yeah, and
That's really
it was
nice.
literally like crumpled
A little
and warm in
moist.
my
Yeah,
pocket. So it
that's
really had that
nice.
extra touch. But he was really cool. Shout out Felipe. He came up to me and actually it was the first time someone's been like, "Oh, are you Beetle Moses?" And I was like, "Bro, yes." Like I told him like I've never been recognized in public before, and
Did you
yeah, that
tell
was
him
really cool.
to sign up for the Patreon for only
I
$5 a
did. It did
month? You can
not come
listen
up
to tons of
organically,
stuff.
no, but I'm sure he will. I'm sure he listens to the podcast, and I'm sure he will.
Well, while you're pulling up the execs, let me say that Vosh episode, it starts
Banger.
very strong and ends with me having a mental breakdown. So if you
That's
guys want to see that,
well that
I
now
can't
we
drink
got
that
to
much, bro. I can't drink that
we
much.
got to trade off because it feels like now this episode was the reverse. We started very calm and then I like just got all tense about
Yeah.
reciting that fucking
I still
event.
think, dude, the saving grace of this episode, someone, a Hollywood executive, is gonna hear that Jewish robot idea, and we're gonna get a movie, baby. We're gonna
I
get a
would really
movie.
like to see that happen. Okay, executives,
You want to hear another
guys.
quick movie idea?
Okay.
It's very brief. Average Joe. Everyone in
Mm-hmm.
the world has been killed by a virus. The tallest, everyone else, on Earth is now midgets, right?
Mm,
Except for one man who is 5'7", but is now
mm.
the tallest man on Earth. Isn't it? There's something fun there, isn't there?
It's actually
Average
really
Joe.
funny. Yeah, I like
Dude, I
that.
like that.
Or I like the idea that yeah, like I'm almost picturing there was some random shit that happened where like everybody's head got chopped off at once, and the only people that remained were
The
little
five foot
people,
seven people.
and this one guy who was sleeping at the time, but he's 5'7", so he's taller than the rest. Anyway, okay. That happens, by the way, in the movie Ghost Ship. I never saw the rest of the movie, but in the very beginning,
There's a 5'7" guy.
no, no, it's actually no. There's not a 5'7" guy. Maybe there is, but there's some weird shit that happens on this ship where like there's this like wire, like metal wiring that gets pulled too tight, and it snaps and it severs like everybody on the ship in half except for this little girl who just witnesses the whole thing. But because she's so little, it just goes like right
I
over
never
her.
saw Ghost Ship, but this
You don't
older
need to.
kid had the DVD, and it was like a ship with like a
With a
skull on the front, and
skull,
I was like,
yeah.
dude, as a kid, I was like, "Ooh," like so scared of the fucking ship with
That
the
was one of
skull
those
on it.
movies because Angie's obsessed with like a lot of those like B horror movies because she watched them also as like a kid. And so she'll sometimes, but I think she'll overestimate how good they actually are because she enjoyed them as a child. She'd be like, "Oh, that movie's so good, it's scary." And I remember putting that on and watching that first scene and just kind of
Well, dude, once you're like,
stinks,
there
man.
really is. There, you can get pretentious with it, but once you watch a good horror movie like Rosemary's Baby, or even like something like Hereditary, it's like
Yeah.
anytime someone tries to show you a good horror movie and it's just like B-roll schlock, it's like,
Yeah.
bro, come on,
But
dude. Like,
that type of movie has its place. I mean, I think more
oh
than
yeah,
any
when you're
other
fucking
movie,
some chick's ass on watching Netflix, that's like the
it's
best one.
perfect. This is a nightmare YouTube episode to edit, by the way. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's just
can't. I'm gonna have to get started probably immediately
yeah, especially if we're
with
gonna upload this
this.
tomorrow. The what was I gonna say? Yeah, actually, I want to read the patrons real quick, but it does make me think. I wonder what the philosophy is behind like why is it that like there's a ton of B movies, but the ones that I feel like the ones that people hold most near and dear are B horror movies. You know what I mean? That they're like the ones that are the most like,
Well, it's a nostalgia thing. You know, you think about when you watched it and you're probably like 14 to 17, and those are like
hmm,
golden years in terms of looking back. You know what I mean? You don't
yeah, I
remember all
can
the
see
bad
that.
shit. You just remember all the good shit. But
I think that's probably true. All right, let me read these off. Um, Guys, I just want to say I love you so much. I know a lot of you already heard that toast truck story in the Discord, so sorry you had to re-endure it. But thank you so much for your support. These are the executives of the Patreon. We've got Bugs on My Wee Wee, Brat Brat Pew Pew, Conga Heli, Francho, Gzan, Gwyn, HP. Oh, new exec this month. I think the first time that I'm reading this one off. Limp Dick.
let's
Woo!
go.
Protista, Protagon, Shrek the Third, Shalom Guy, Trevor Stilson, and Yowlitz. You guys are so goaded. And
You
if you're
guys do
listening to this
rock.
at home, because this is a YouTube episode, if you want to be part of the fun and the party, please hop on over to patreon.com/coldcuts. We've truly got a family atmosphere over there, I'd
I think I
say.
see the patrons more than I see my own parents
I
at this
really
point.
feel like we're spending a lot of time with them, which is
Also, I don't want to get
awesome.
people
It's a
too
great
excited,
community.
but for this month, I spent $50 on eBay and I bought a pack of like 100 random booster pack cards from like
Hmm,
Trolls the movie, Power Rangers, Spy Kids, Shrek, a Rock War card. So if you want one of those, I'm gonna let everyone pick one out. But I know I gotta see how many I
that's
have,
cool.
but I know at least the execs and I think it's the
Italian.
Italian
Yeah,
tier, the $25 tier. I know for a fact at least you guys will get a single booster. So
that
if
is
you
so
want that,
based.
if you want a nice deal, okay.
All right, we'd love to see you over there. And as always, I'm really happy to be recording again. I honestly missed working from home. I was tired of having to schmooze with strangers. So very happy to be back. Missed you, my sweet, sweet brother. And let's record another. You want to record another one tomorrow?
Yeah, you still have to tell that story about Joe, dude.
Joe. No!
Fuck, I fucked it up. Who's Steve Jobs?